As a result of the poor peace settlements of World War One and the effects of the Great Depression, we're going to see many nations around the globe begin to question their existing governments. We're going to see them question capitalism and democracy and seek changes. And so, one of these nations that are going to seek change is going to be Italy. And Italy is going to become a fascist regime. And so, first off, fascism is an ideology that focuses on extreme nationalism. And it becomes popular in Europe, but only really gains control of Italy and then later spreads to other parts of the globe as well. But fascism was hostile to democracies, but they were also hostile towards communism and socialism as well. And so typically they're led by a very charismatic dictator who then creates a one-party system and uses secret police and things like that to ensure order and stability. And they focus on extreme nationalism, a lot of veneration to the state, and propping up of the military as well. You see a lot of frequent military parades and things like that. And so fascism was founded by Benito Mussolini. He's the founder of Italian fascism. And Italy, after World War I, was upset at their lack of territorial gains. They were basically kind of ignored in those final peace settlements and had hoped that because they had aided Britain and France that they would get territory as a result, and they really didn't get anything. And so Benito Mussolini used that to attack the existing government and rise to power, and created these armed fascist squads called the Black Shirts that attacked socialists in Italy, because the Socialist Party was kind of the rival growing power in Italy that they had to contend with, and uses his Black Shirts to march on Rome, and is invited by the prime minister to basically, invited by the king to basically become the new prime minister of Italy. They march on Rome and are given power without a fight. And so once he's handed this title of prime minister, all other political parties were immediately banned, and Italy becomes a one-party dictatorship. They supported businesses, they put down labor unions, they prohibited strikes. And even though technically fascists weren't anti-Semitic, as he joins this closer alliance with Hitler, it does take on some anti-Semitic characteristics. They do pass some anti-Semitic laws, like forbidding intermarriage between Italians and Jews. And we're going to see fascist ideas and regimes spread to other parts of the globe as well. For example, in Spain, the Spanish Civil War, a fascist leader, Francisco Franco, is going to take over the Republican forces and win this civil war and create an authoritarian regime there that will dominate for the next 25 years or so. We see fascist-style regimes take over in Argentina and Brazil as well. Ataturk in Turkey shared some similar ideas to fascism, as did Japan as they transitioned to a dictatorship. So even though Japan wasn't technically a fascist regime, they shared a lot of the similar traits, such as the extreme nationalism and militarism. Meanwhile, in Germany was hit hard by the peace settlements after World War I and was forced to pay back war debt and take blame for the war and limit the size of their military. And so Adolf Hitler basically comes to power in the midst of all of this failure and joins at the time, what was a rather obscure group called the National Socialist German Workers' Party, and works his way up to become the leader of that organization. And so as he works his way up to become leader of this organization, Germany, not only were they still suffering from the loss of World War I, but they were also hit hard by the Great Depression, suffering like 50% industrial output decline, 35% unemployment rates. And so the existing democracy in Germany was basically associated with all this failure. And so the Nazi Party used that to rise to power. And gradually, the Nazi Party becomes the largest party in parliament. And then the president is basically going to hand over power to Hitler. And so, much like Mussolini in Italy, Hitler took power through legal elections and legal means. However, once he took power, much like Mussolini, he creates a one-party dictatorship. The Nazis become the only accepted political party. All their political parties are banned. And he's going to create a totalitarian regime. And so a totalitarian regime simply means that the government has total control. They control every aspect of life. They use secret police and terror to ensure people adhered to their laws. They banned trade unions and strikes and supported business. They build back up their military and began to ignore the Treaty of Versailles that had ended World War I. Meanwhile, when we look at Nazi ideology focused on improving both the quality and quantity of the German race. And so women were praised as wives and mothers and were discouraged from working. They even had this cult of motherhood that was created. And so every year on Hitler's mother's birthday, they celebrated motherhood. And you were kind of awarded this Medal of Motherhood. So if you had 4 children or more, you received this kind of bronze medal of motherhood. If you had 6 or more children, you got the silver medal. And if you had 8 or more children, you received the gold medal of motherhood. But it was a way to try to encourage increased birth rates amongst the German peoples. Nazi eugenics. And eugenics is the idea that you can improve the quality of the human race through selective breeding. And so the Nazis believed that they could improve the German race through selective breeding. And so undesirables were forced to undergo sterilization. So if you were disabled or mentally ill, you would be forced to undergo sterilization so that you couldn't reproduce. Later, this escalates to include state-sponsored killings of physically and mentally handicapped peoples. And over 200,000 are going to be killed under this idea of eugenics. And this becomes kind of a precursor to what they'll do to the Jewish peoples later on. Anti-Semitism also becomes central to Nazi ideology. And the Jews had become scapegoats for all of Germany's problems. They were blamed for losing World War I and the poor peace settlements after World War I. They were blamed for the hardships of the Great Depression. And so gradually we see this escalation of policies against the Jews in Germany. And it begins with things like the Nuremberg laws, which deprive Jews of citizenship and forbid intermarriage between German and Jewish peoples. We see many Jews lose their businesses. They were forced to sell to the government for much lower prices than what their businesses were actually worth. This then kind of escalates to the Kristallnacht, which means Night of Broken Glass, where SS officers attack Jewish synagogues and homes and businesses. And so as this escalation against the Jews continued to increase, those that were able began to leave. And we see about 250,000 Jews flee to other countries, but many were basically trapped in Germany. And they're going to be the first to become victims as this escalates eventually to the Holocaust.